Okay, so let's look at some of your problems from your 12.5 exercises. So this, your last section, by the way, so that's real exciting, last section of the semester to learn. And it's got a lot of kind of in-depth concepts, I would say, to help us to understand this normal curve that you've seen the lecture. You know, there's a normal curve, and in such, the mean is right down the middle, and then we convert things to a z-score, and the z-score tells how far above the mean we are or how far below the mean we are. When we have a positive z-score, we're above the mean. So that's this first question in your homework, is conceptualizing this idea of a normal curve. In a normal curve, the bulk of the data, the most average things, average or mean, median, and mode, all fall kind of in the bulk is in the middle, and that would be at a z-score of 0, right down the center. Then whenever you do a z of positive, you're above the mean, and a z that's negative, you're below the mean. So that's that first question. A data value that has a negative z-score is below, and a data value that has a positive z-score is above the mean. Next question. According to the empirical rule, and this is in your notes, the normal distribution, the normal curve distribution, we have approximately 68% of the data falls between one standard deviation. A standard deviation is a z-value, like one standard deviation would be a z equals 1, so a positive 1 and then a negative 1. You've got most of the data, like I said, 68% to be exact. And then it's 95 if you go out 2 z-scores, and then, oh, I'll have to look at my notes. I'm going to have you look at your notes for that, to find that other one. It's either, you know, it's one of those, right? But again, that's directly in your notes from the lecture. That's just a matter of filling those in from your lecture to help you see that that's what a normal curve means. Most of it's in the middle, around the mean or the average. 1 z-score plus and minus. If you've got 2 z-scores, you've got almost all of it in, and then 3 z-scores, you're going to have very little bit of outliers, you know, on the tail ends of it, so you'll get most of the data. Oh, and there is our little z-score stuff next. All right, so now talking about a z-score, whenever we convert things into a z-value, which has to do with the standard deviation that we learned about in a previous section, once we find out the normal standard deviation and the mean of our data, then we have this formula that converts it into a z-score. We'll have to do that in a minute, but right now this one gives us a z-score of 1.22 and says find the area under the curve that is to the right of z is 1.22. Now your table does to the left of. So if we were doing a left of, we would just say exactly what's on the table. But this problem says find the area to the right of. Okay, so think about it like this. You know, I'm forever drawing this little curve for you. I hope you don't get too tired of that. But that's at z is 0, down the middle. So if we're at 1.22, z of 1.22, when I look in this table, and I'm looking at positive 1.22, I'm going to have to go to the next page. Look at positive 1.2, notice is right here, then that would be 1.2012. So I have to go over a couple of places. Right here is the number I need. That's 0.8888. Okay, let's go back to our little curve. That means 0.8888 would be to the left of. Again, all this table does is to the left of. And to the left of, there's, as a percentage, that would be 88.88%. Most of the data is to the left of. All right, but again, ours asks us to do to the right of, so we need this opposite tail end. So the entire curve makes up 100%, or the number 1 as a raw data as 1. And we'll subtract the 0.888. Since we're not doing it as a percent, it will say what percent if we were supposed to use the percentage amount. But so kind of ignore my percent there. We're just going off of the decimal value, 0.888, and subtract that from 1.000. Of course, on your calculator will make that easier than doing all that old style subtracting and borrowing, right? So I'm going to go to my calculator and ask it to subtract, and it's 0.1 1, 1, 2. And it says round to 4 decimal places. So we have 4 decimal places exactly given from our table of values. Okay, so that's how you do number 3. Okay, number 4. Number 4 says, I probably should have put number 4 before number 3 because it's actually the easier question, is to the left of. To do to the left of is exactly what's on the table. And this one is a negative, so it's on this first side of the table, the negative values. Look up negative 1.48. Let's see, there's negative 1.4. I need to go all the way over to, notice the 8 above, where those intersect, 0.0694. And it says round to 4 decimal places. That's what this table gives is 4 decimal places. So that is exactly what you put in there. Exactly what it says for negative 1.48. We go to negative 1.4, then go over to the 8 part of it, pick up this number, and that's exactly what we put there. Again, since it said to leave it in decimal form and not percent form, I'll leave it just like that. And this chart always tells you to the left of. That's exactly how this chart is given. Okay, let's see. Number 5. We're going to do it again. To the left of, exactly the same problem, another practice of it. Again, if it's to the left of, that's what this chart specifically is labeled at, areas to the left of z when z is negative. So negative 2.34, there's negative 2.3, go over, there's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see that? 0.0096. And again, that's exactly what we fill in. Now, I think I need to draw that little curve for you just always and say here's z is 0. If we were at negative 2.34, we're a ways back here. That's how many standard deviations we would be below the mean, below the average. So when we do to the left of, it's a small little tail end of this curve. So it shouldn't be very much. And notice that is a very small number. As a percent, if we go to right, it's less than 1%. It's not even a percent, it's 0.96%. Okay, so that's 5. Okay, number 6. All right, now we're going to switch it up and do a between problem. Those are the 3 things you see in your notes and your videos. We do to the left of a z-score, to the right of a z-score, and then between a z-score. When you do to the left of a z-score, it's the easiest question because you get to use exactly what's on the chart. That's how it's given. When it's to the right of, you have to subtract it from 1. 1 minus that value to get the opposite side. And then when you do between, you have to subtract your 2 answers, and I'll try to explain that here as well. But we have to look up each one of these z values from our table. Let's see, negative 0.141, I'll find that one first. 1.40, 1.41 is 0.0793. Then negative 0.69, negative 0. Oh, I'm out of your screen. Negative 0.0, I know that's hard to see. You'll just have to trust me here. It's 0.2451. So you look up each of these values in your chart. Now here's what it would look like. You were going to subtract those 2 answers, but I'm going to try to tell you why here. Z equals 0 is down the center, right? If we're at negative 0.69, we'd be somewhere a little below that, and at negative 1.41 would be even further below that. So if we want the area between negative 0.69 and negative 1.46, that's this little section in between those 2 z values. To get that, the chart doesn't give that straight up. It tells you the area from here on back, and that was 0.2451. Then it tells you the area from here on back, and that's 0.0793. So we have to subtract off this double counted tail end there to find the difference to just get the part between it. So you always subtract when it's a between question. All right, so what is that? 0.2451 minus 0.0793. Calculator says 0.1658. Okay. Oh, I've wasted way too much paper here. I printed this off to do, and it printed this long chart. The chart's the same for every problem, so I really just need to print off one chart and keep using it, didn't I? All right, now we get a little more conceptualized. Not much more. It just wants us to change it to a percent. What's the percent of data that's less than 0.8. So almost the same thing. Less than means to the left of something on whenever you're looking at a number line, especially. But z equals 0, you know, is there. 0.8 would be just a little above that. So say that's the 0.8 because it's positive. It's above z is 0. And the area or the percent of the data that's less than that, you know, less than means left. So less than and left, same thing here. So we're doing the same thing we just did, but it does want it converted to percent form. So notice this first side of the table, all that waste I made. I have to flip over and find the positive numbers. Notice these are positive, and there is 0.8 and 0.8, regular 0.8, so 0 on the end. Can you see that? It's 0.7881. That's the number as a decimal, but this time it did say do a percent. So it'd be 78.81 when it's converted to a percent. And it does say do 2 decimal places. So 78.81, the 2 decimal places in percent form. All right, wasting all that paper. Let's see. Number 8. This time it does a greater than. Greater than means to the right of, so it's going to be one of those where I have to subtract from 1. Remember, when you want the right side of the curve, this side over here, you have to do 1 minus all this that's on the chart to get the tail end that's unshaded. All right, so greater than negative 1.80. So looking down my chart for negative 1.80, that's the first one right there, 0.0359. Again, because this chart does to the left of, always to the left of, we have to subtract from 1, or 1.000. On your calculator, probably, you'll do that. And we get 0.9641. Then we convert it because it wants it in percent form, so go to right. 96.41 is your final answer there in percent form. Okay, number 9. Oh, I hate that I've done this, printed the chart over and over. If you print from yours, you'll see that's a lot of waste there. Now we do a between. So like I said, we have the left, the right, and between. Those are the 3 things that we can do with this chart. When we do a between, we look at both of those values and then subtract the answers. And if we're doing percent, we go to right. So let's see. Negative 1.95 is on this page. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 5.0256. Now I look up, this one's positive, 0.93, so I have to flip my page to the positive side. 0.9 and then 0, 1, 2, 3. 0.93 is 0.8238. So we note that number. Oh, what was that? 8238. 8238. Then you have to subtract those 2 numbers. When it's a between, it's always subtract. That subtracts to be 0.7982. And since it asked me to do it in percent form, I need to go to right to make it a percent. 79.82 in percent form. And these are asking for the decimal places that we're naturally kind of getting from our chart. So that's handy. Okay. Let's see what the next one is. Oh, it's exactly the same one. So I think I will go ahead and pause the video and let you work that one for practice now that we've went over that. And then we'll pick back up with number 11, one of the applications. See you in a bit.